I was a practicing clinician for over 22 years and have worked literally with hundreds of people struggling with depression. And it's always been one of the most interesting things to work with as a clinician, because depression is kind of a funny beast, because it's such a self-fulfilling, regulating cycle, because the things that will help lots of people to get undepressed are not overly complicated. Yet depression itself makes those things extremely difficult to do. And so one of the things that I've shared with my clients across the years is that, treating depression isn't overly complicated, but it's really hard to do. And living with depression is much more difficult, obviously, than treating it. And I've seen so many people across the years who have been just powerfully impacted by the effects of depression, and seeing the effects on them individually and on their marriages and their relationships and their children. And I've worked a lot with people that have been struggling with depression to try to help them overcome it. And of course, the standard treatment for depression is an antidepressant and therapy, traditional therapy. In fact, the APA, the American Psychiatric Association, recommends an antidepressant and therapy as the first line of treatment for depression. And then interestingly, after that, they now recommend TMS as the next step in treating depression. But I'm a little bit embarrassed to admit, actually, that a year and a half ago, I had never heard of TMS. Didn't know what it was. About 11 years ago, TMS was approved by the FDA for the treatment of depression. And so a colleague of mine introduced me to TMS about a year and a half ago. And I was just sort of mildly interested at first, just another avenue for trying to treat depression. And then as I started looking into it and researching it and understanding the science behind it, I started to get really excited. Because antidepressant medications really are, if you understand the science behind them, they're really a workaround to how our brains naturally work. And we can go into more detail on that, but they don't work within how our brains naturally work. And they just don't work for very many people. In fact, one of the seminal study on the efficacy or lack thereof of antidepressants is called the STAR-D study, national study. And antidepressant medications, the first round of antidepressants only works for about 30% of the population, which means that there's 70% of the population for whom that first antidepressant doesn't work, and who find insufficient relief in the combination of therapy and antidepressants. And then, right then is when TMS should be introduced, but that's not what we do. Instead, we add another antidepressant. We try another one. We switch it up. Well, the efficacy of the first one is about 30%. It goes down to about 22% on the second one, and then it goes down, I think it's like 17%, and then 9% or something after that on the fourth trial. So if you're lucky enough to have antidepressants work, they tend to work okay, although their efficacy tends to decrease across time, again, because of how our brains work. And somebody that's struggled with major depressive disorder for a number of years almost always has tried several medications and becomes really frustrated. And so I was really excited to find out about TMS and to see the data on it, where antidepressants work for such a small percentage of the population, yet they are the go-to for treatment. The studies on TMS show that at the end of 6 weeks, the TMS is providing relief for over 62% of the people who undergo TMS treatment. But what really got me excited is that a year later, without any further treatment, that efficacy rate goes up to over 68%. Our brains are designed to work well. Our brains are designed to function. And if they're not working well, there's normally a pretty good reason for that. And typically, if we fix the reason, then they start working well. And so TMS really is, it's like the pull of a lawnmower engine or the starter on a car. It gets the neurotransmission process working, and once it's working, it continues to work. An exciting little tidbit is that our office, TMS Success, our success rate during this first year that we've been doing this is over 92%. Over 92% of our patients are experiencing relief from depression. And a big part of that is the quality of our staff. We've got an excellent staff here, from Tina, who is our primary technician, and Janice, to our physician, Dr. Larson, is outstanding, extremely competent. And so people get really competent and extremely nurturing care here. And I believe that's probably the difference between the 62% and the 92% is really the quality of care that our patients get. So when I learned about TMS and really studied it and learned about how it works and why it works, I became really excited and decided to purchase the machine and start the business.